Number 1. Up until I moved earlier this year, I was working at a fast food chain. I could do any job there, but I had a set schedule. On the weekends, I would close the kitchen, and on weekdays, I would close the dining hall. On those weekdays, most of my time was actually spent in the drive-thru. I was at the job for about a year, and we would get some regular customers. Even through drive-thru, I knew who some people were by voice and what their typical order would be. A lot of the time, I would end up taking the order for this weird old man. He was probably in his 70s, and he would order a small dollar sandwich and nothing else. Mainly, he just gave the other girls that worked there the creeps. The old man would pull up to the window and hand the girl working the register, which was typically me, a dollar bill. He would just sit there and hold onto it for a moment before letting go. It was almost like sometimes you had to pull it from his hands. One day, though, he did this to me as normal. I then handed him his food and he says, "I love you." Then he just drives away. That would happen about twice a week. After about the third incident, he would comment on how he liked how I was wearing my hair and comment on how pretty I was. I asked the other girls that knew who I was talking about. They all agreed he was creepy, so I asked them, "Has he ever said anything weird to you guys?" Everyone I asked said no. I was the only one in the store that he had been making comments to. I brought this up to multiple managers' attentions. They all said they really couldn't do anything unless he actually did something. He would have to do more than just say things to me. Like I said earlier, I got to the point that I could recognize his voice through the drive-thru speaker. I would take his order and then make one of the male employees cash him out and hand him his food. Once he realized that I was avoiding him, he started to come inside the restaurant, which he never did before. One day I came back to the manager, congratulating me for getting a customer comment on a survey. I read it, and my heart sank. It read, "My name is the best. Bring her back." I knew who it was from. One of my managers knew who it was from as well. I didn't see him since then, but that wasn't the end of it. One night, I was closing the dining hall and I saw a van, similar to the one that the weird old man drove. It just stayed in the parking lot, right by the big glass doors. They never came in. I told the manager on duty and they brushed it off. I am positive that it was him. Shortly after, I moved for reasons other than my creeper and got a new job, making a lot more money. I went back to the restaurant to just drop by and say hi to some people. I also knew I could get free food. The manager there, who knew about the creeper and was the most understanding about the situation, brought up that I was mentioned in another customer comment. Since my name is gone, Angie is now number 1. I look like who? Last year, I was at a fast food chain with free Wi-Fi because I had homework for a college class and couldn't afford my own internet. I was living off campus, and it was around 1 in the morning. An older gentleman, maybe in his 60s, passed by the booth I was sitting in. It was one of those rounded booths, and started talking to me. At first, it was just polite small talk, but he didn't go away. In fact, he just kept talking and talking long after I had stopped. He sat down in my booth right next to me, legs touching, and started telling me how he was running for president and that I should vote for him. Needless to say, I was uncomfortable, but I didn't want to make a scene with him this close. I kept trying to scoot away while packing my stuff slowly, and he kept on going on about how he couldn't keep a wife and how I was a lovely young lady. After minutes of this, he said something that creeped me out. "You remind me of my daughter. She's in a coma now, though. She was killed and then revived, but now in a coma. You would have been good friends with her. You were so like her. You look like her. I told him I needed to leave right then, and thankfully he left first, calling me his new best friend. He then pointed outside and said if I ever needed to see him, he was living in a van just outside, and he was excited to see me tomorrow. As soon as I felt he couldn't see me, I left and went to my car and drove off as quick as I could, making sure he wasn't following me, and thankfully he didn't. I didn't go back there anymore, and my family even pitched money together to get me an internet connection for my place, so I'd be able to do my homework safe at home. I still see his van too at that fast food place. Future Mr. President, let's never meet again. Creepy coworker. Typically, I lurk around Reddit no sleep, but I realized I had a lot of stories that would fit in here more, mainly because they are true. I've lived in Colorado for the past 2 years. I am a 16-year-old male and got my first job recently. I work at a certain fast food chain that is known for mimicking Mexican food. This particular restaurant is owned by my AP American History teacher, but that's another story. The pay isn't great, and the place isn't exactly clean, but I don't mind because it's only part-time. My coworkers are pretty great. We operate out of an economically depressed area, aka the ghetto, so almost all of us are minorities. Earlier last week, we got a new employee, a squat Hispanic man named Ymir. Working in the fast food industry, you're used to seeing some pretty disgusting people, but Ymir was another case entirely. He had a huge, thick mustache that had bits of food matter in it. The rest of his face was unshaven and looked like someone had sprinkled some pubes on his face. One of my coworkers, Trisha, claimed she saw lice in his face pubes one time. His hair was around the same length as mine, a little less than shoulder length, but his was always incredibly greasy and poorly maintained. A substance I've dubbed hair cheese would collect around his ears and on the nape of his neck after a shift. I shit you not, it looked and smelled like smegma. In hindsight, he probably just used a lot of hair mayo and never washed it out. He had very poor personal hygiene. He constantly smelled like testicle musk, something inexplicably. I'd seen him spray perfume and apply deodorant, and his smell would never change, like it had been absorbed by his aura of ball rot. He also had teeth that looked like kernels of corn, which is why he grew a big mustache, or so I thought. In short, Ymir was not an attractive man. Our shift manager, a kindly old priest named James, was repulsed by him, but our overall manager, who had hired him because they were old friends or something, and his word was final. Initially, we had just him doing the stock in the back because James was afraid to let him near any prep stations. That is until I went back to get some items and found him sitting on the floor, eating shredded cheese and thawed meat. So James moved him to cleaning duty. Until that point, I never really talked to Ymir, but suddenly he'd come around to my prep station and start having these really bizarre conversations. Because of the way these prep stations are formatted, if more than one person is at one, it's hard for someone else to get to the back, where the storage and freezer is. So all he was really doing was blocking the way with himself and his mop and bucket, which I never saw him use once. He asked me what my underwear size was, and when I got offended, he laughed so loud like it was the funniest joke he'd ever heard. During a busy day, he wouldn't be anywhere near me, mainly because there were many other people moving around the prep station, and lots of people working on the prep stations. But busy days were rare, and I had to endure Ymir. One particularly slow morning, he comes up behind me, giggling like a little girl. I turn around to see what he was doing, and he's holding a condom. He tells me that he wants to put it in one of the tacos I was prepping. I was pretty pissed because that sort of thing would get me in more trouble than him. The condom was also unrolled, which made me think that he actually tried it on before planning to do this. Disgusted, I went to get James mid-stride. I looked back and saw him eating the condom. I assume it was because he didn't want to get caught with it. No chewing, just swallowed it whole and then grinned at me with his corn teeth. I told James about it, and he said he couldn't do anything without any real evidence that Yamar actually did it. We didn't have CCTV in the back at this point. After this point, Yamir's conversations got even more bizarre and sexual. He'd do things like walk up behind and sniff my hair and then remark, "You smell good today." He also called me pretty, gorgeous, and beautiful. I complained to James several times, and he passed it on to the overall manager, who was looking over the numerous complaints about Ymir for what seemed like way too long. He'd also do this thing where he would go, "What if we were gay? Would we be a couple?" I told him that not only was I not gay, I was still legally a minor, and he was 30 years older than me. "Yeah, but what if?" And then he'd come up with these scenarios that honestly physically sickened me. Many of them included rape, abduction, and pedophilia. They seemed more like his personal fantasies instead of what-if scenarios. Yesterday morning, I finally snapped when he asked me, "What would you do if you walked into the locker room and I was really hard and you weren't disgusted but kinda turned on?" I told him to fuck off and pushed him over. He looked kind of startled and then scampered away. I didn't see him for the rest of the day. After work, somehow he found me on Facebook, and from then till now he's been creating accounts to send me friend requests. I went into work today and found out that he was fired when James needed something cleaned and found Yamar playing with himself in the supply closet. A mop handle was involved. So please, Yamar, let's not meet.